so I decide when Nixon calls me to ask him, which is not the protocol at the White House, to talk directly with him the next morning. I said, Mr. President, you and I really need to talk, and not with Bob Haldeman around or John Ehrlichman around. I just need to tell you what I know. And he said, come in at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, which was faster. I wanted to actually prepare some thoughts, and I didn't have that time. I will go in and do an hour laydown of him, telling him there is a cancer on his presidency to make sure I have his attention. And I did. But sometimes I would look at him with his feet up on the desk and around his shoes, and both feet were on the floor when I said that. So he's paying attention, and I take him through where it all started, from what my understanding is, and how it started, why they were gathering intelligence, the connection of all these loose ends that were exposed as a result of their activities, and raising problems. For example, I say Bud Krogh, who was in charge of this operation to investigate Ellsberg, thinks he might have committed perjury because he's been nominated as the Undersecretary of Transportation. And I'm surprised. I'm somewhat taken back. I can hear myself almost gasping on the tapes with Nixon's reaction. And the taping system is secret, of course,
right?
But the microphones are right underneath the desk of the president, and I seem to sit down in front of a microphone every time I'm in there, because I literally can hear myself gasp at times on most of the tapes are very hard to hear. Mine are particularly easy to hear, which is good. I'm pleased I sat when I did.
Yeah.
But anyway, he tells me when I tell him that Krogh may have committed perjury, he says, "Well, John, that's no problem. That's an easy rap to beat." And I know he knows a lot about perjury because earlier in his career, he had gone after an early potential rival, Alger Hiss,
Right.
to get convicted of perjury. So he and Nixon, I read about all that and knew he'd actually gone to the grand jury to try to persuade a New York Southern District, New York grand jury to indict Hiss, and representing the House Un-American Activities Committee before the grand jury. Were very unusual. But anyway, but he says, go on. And so I keep taking him through all these problems he's got, and he has answers for every one of them that just surprise me. And I'm building up to the fact that the Howard Hunt, one of the managers of the Watergate break-in and that whole intelligence scheme at the re-election committee, is demanding money, and he wants $120,000 yesterday. And I'm telling him, the president, explaining a crime he's never heard of is obstruction of justice. So why am I doing this? Well, this seems to me what a White House counsel should be doing, and I'm taken aback by how little he knows. Wow. But anyway, he will later turn around and claim this conversation is the first time he learns about all this business, and that people had committed perjury and what have you, and that he immediately took action after that. Well, in fact, when the tape came out, every time I raised the fact these guys are demanding money and we shouldn't pay it, he's saying, no, we got to pay this money, in essence. So it is deeply incriminating obstruction of justice conversation.
I remember reading, is that the conversation that I know where $1 million can be gotten?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. What was your reaction to that? I mean, I know you probably gasped, but I mean, that must have been just a stunning revelation for you to deal with sitting there.
Well, that was stunning. Yes, when he immediately, I realized my arguments are not carrying the day.
Right.
Is one of the
right.
I'm giving him the best I got, and it's just not moving him. and how difficult, you have to get the mob kind of activities going to wash money and stuff I've heard of all this chatter about. And but he's unimpressed with it. And now, what is even more stunning that I didn't know is after I leave, he goes off to his secretary's office, which is right off the Oval Office, and it can be heard on the tapes, ask her how much money they have in the slush fund.
Hmm.
So I didn't, I didn't carry the argument at all, but I did refused at that point to do anything. And after that conversation, it's an hour and 50-minute conversation. The first hour is just Nixon and yours truly. The last 50 minutes, he calls Haldeman and has me repeat some of the things I'm concerned about. Haldeman knows all these things because I've already told him their problems and what have you. So the upshot of that conversation is they realize I'm not into solving the cover-up problems. So I am now the new problem. And I know from today, after listening to all of the tapes that will follow, that they will go round and round and round on how to deal with me. There's the way they're going to deal with you, John, is they're going to make you the scapegoat.
Right.
And so the decision was made. It's on the tapes. It's clear now that they decide they'll make Mitchell responsible for everything that happens up to the arrest at the Watergate, and they'll make me responsible for everything that happens after in connection with the cover-up. They'll claim this is all my idea, when in fact none of it was my idea. I'm a middle-level guy just gathering information for them. And so at one point in the spring of '73, I dictate a brief statement to my secretary that I think kind of rattled her, because she had no idea of a lot. I didn't talk about this stuff in the office. It wasn't really. It was a very small part of what I was doing. I was very busy. It was a busy office, and anyway, it's a statement for her to read to all the major news outlets: the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Associated Press, United Press International, so on and so forth. So Jane read this statement that because my colleagues had also stopped talking to me. And so I thought they ought to get the message that if they thought I was willing to be a scapegoat,
Right.
they didn't understand the facts and they didn't understand me. And that message did get through on the front pages of all the country's papers.